Okay, last week we saw this video, the big rock. Remember, how did it start? Did it start with a big rock? No, remember way up in the corner we saw a little thing that grew into something very big, right? Next page. Because sometimes things start small but have big endings. So we really want to, as much as we can, to start well. You guys are young, right? And the decisions you make now are going to impact your whole life. Us old guys, when we make decisions, they're only going to make a change for half of our lives or a quarter of our lives. But for you guys, it's your whole life. So every decision you make now is especially important. So we want to get some good decisions, some good things happening in our lives. Next. So we're off to the Olympics, right? What are the 4 sports we're going to do? First of all, we're going to talk about figure skating. We talked about that last week. Today we're going to talk about curling. And then next week, bobsleigh, and finally, short track, right? Okay. So let's remember what we learned from Kim Yuna. What did she teach us last week? Next. Exactly. We got it. Oops. Next one. We all need someone to look up to. Remember, she said, I'm this good because I looked up to Michelle Kwan. I wanted to be just like her. And we need someone to look up to as well. Just like she did, all of us need someone to look up to. And in our life, the person we need to look up to is Jesus. And so that's what Hebrews tells us. Next. This is what Hebrews 12:3 said to us. Think about Jesus. He patiently endured the anger, insults, and sinful people were shouting at him. Think about him so that you won't get discouraged and stop trying. The first idea that we have that's going to be little, that's going to grow into something very big in your life, is to think about Jesus, to focus on Jesus. Remember, he's the start and the end of our faith. He's the beginning and the end. And if we don't think about him, then we don't have someone to aim to. And if Kim Yuna didn't have Michelle Kwan, she never would have got as good as she is. And if we don't have Jesus as the goal and the start, then we'll never be able to really be the kind of people we should be. Okay, guys? Okay? So that was the main point of last week. We need someone to copy. We need someone to aim to. And that person we need to aim at is Jesus. Next. Today we're going to look at curling. Okay? So I got to tell you about curling. Because has anyone here ever gone curling? Have you ever seen curling? Some of you have. Let me tell you about curling. Next week. Curling and Canada. In Canada, we love curling, in my home country. Some Canadians have never gone curling. Can you believe that? Some Canadians have never... Elizabeth is a Canadian. She has never gone curling in her life. She's not a real Canadian, I think. This lady is called Sandra Schmirler. She's a curler. Schmirler the curler, they called her. Okay? She won the first Olympic gold medal for women's curling. She died a few years ago. When she died, 15,000 people went to her funeral. Do you know how many people that is? That's a lot of people to go to a funeral. The people at the funeral place would have been writing down notes from those envelopes for days if that's how we did it, right? When she died, the government buildings put their flags halfway down to show that an important person had died. That's how important curling is in Canada. I'll tell you about when I was a kid. Next page. When I was a kid, this was Saturday afternoons on TV. I didn't have to go to Hagwon because we didn't have them in Canada. And so on Saturday afternoon, from 3 to 5 o'clock, every Saturday in the winter was curling. With Don Duguid and Don Chevrier. Then there's some stupid show when I watch TV, or then cartoons for 1 half hour, and then hockey. So on Saturday, when in Canada, we used to watch ice sport and ice sport for 5 or 6 hours every Saturday, right? And that was what Saturday afternoons were. You'd come in, it was freezing cold, it was too cold to play outside, so you came inside, you turned on the TV, and there was curling, with the guys going, Do you want to see some curling? We'll watch the curling from the Canadian men's team. They won, when Kim Yana won her gold, this team won the gold in curling in 2010. Next page. Can you turn the volume up? So there's guys throwing the rock, and then other guys sweeping it. That's from above. And look, those other two, they're gone. Here's another rock. This is a very fast one. This is a takeout. He's going to hit one. Perfect shot. Here's another guy from the same team. This is the third. This is another takeout. Watch how fast he throws this one. Fast or swoops. Flying by. They got 4 that time. This one, just in. And so suddenly they got 2 when that guy was going to get 1. Here's the last shot to win. Oh, one more. Watch, they show him where to hit. And if he hits these 2, they win the gold medal.
What's the sound they make?
And they won the gold medal. Right? It's kind of a cool sport. Those little rocks, you know how much they weigh? Anyone want to guess how much they weigh? Here. Yep, that's how much they weigh. He weighs about the same as one of those rocks. They're going to curl you, slide you down. About 20 kilograms. So they're pretty heavy little rocks. And when they smash, anyways, that's curling. So just like with Kim Yana, we had to ask, what makes a good figure skater? Well, that's the question here. What makes a great curler? What do you think makes a great curler? There's lots of things, just like with figure skaters. What do you think?
Steady arm.
A steady arm, yeah. But one important thing. Next. This is what makes a great curler. Curlers know all the time that this is what they're aiming for. They have one goal. If a curler forgets for a minute and thinks, you know, I'd like to just put the stone back here, or I'd like to put the rock over here, maybe just right down here. If they forget that the goal is always the same, they make a mistake. They make a bad mistake. Next page. They know that there's a standard, something that can be the basis of all their decisions. Curlers know that that spot, that X in the middle of the circles, that's what matters. They're aiming for that center circle all the time. If they aim somewhere else, it's only to work towards getting to that center circle. That's always the goal. That's always the goal. And that's what makes a great curler. A curler who never forgets his end goal is the center circle. Next. They have to remember, hit the button. We call it, this is called the button. You gotta hit the button. Hit it. Oh, here it comes. Oh, hit the button. Right on the button. They aim for the same thing. They're always aiming for the same thing. That's what makes a great curler. Next. So, what's that standard? What is the thing that Christians need to aim to? Now we've got Jesus as our goal, but what is the thing, the way to live that we're looking for? What's the button that we're trying to hit? Next page. This is from Romans. Let me read it to you. You should owe nothing to anyone except that you will always owe love to each other. The person who loves others has done all that the law commands. Next. The law says you must not commit adultery, you must not murder anyone, you must not steal, you must not want what belongs to someone else. That's what the law says. But next. All these commands and all other commands are really only one rule. Love your neighbor the same as you love yourself. That's the standard for Christians. Love your neighbor. Love people. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Next page. Love doesn't hurt others. So loving is the same as obeying the law. That's what Paul said in Romans. Paul said the standard, the center, the thought that we're aiming for is love each other. Love people as much as you love yourself. Really love people, care about them, do good things for them. So now, next. We're going to skip this. Why? Next, yeah. Next one. So now we know the question to ask. Before we say something, before we do something, before we make plans, and even after we've done anything, before we say or do anything, we just say, what are we aiming for? We're aiming for love. Is this thing I'm going to do, is this loving? So when you're going to do something to your little brother or your big brother, you're going to do something that bugs them, you say, is this what I want him to do to me? No. When you're going to say something to your friend at school, and it might be kind of a mean thing to say, is this what I want them to say to me? No, I'm not going to say it. Right? So everything you do, you can ask, is this loving? Is this showing love to them? And if it isn't, it's not the right thing to do. It's the button that we're aiming for. Next page. Oh, here. Can you read that? Then bigger. Now, is this a loving thing to say? That's what we ask. Is this a loving thing to say? Is this caring for the other person? Is this helping them, not hurting them? Next one. Is this a loving thing to do? Is this something good for the person? Am I showing love to them? Next one. Will this plan, I'm going to do something, is it the right thing to show love to my neighbor? Is this really love, or is this just going somewhere else, off the button? Next page. This is how James said, one law rules over all other laws. This royal law is found in the scriptures. Love your neighbor the same as you love yourself. If you obey this law, you're doing right. When you're looking for the button to hit, the thing to do, the right thing to do, it's easy. You just have to say, is this loving? Is this love? Am I doing something that shows love to the people around me? And if you do, if you can say that, that's the right thing to do. You're hitting the button. But if it's not showing love, you're missing the button, you're missing the point completely. So if you want to be the kind of person that Jesus calls you to be, that's the question you say. Before you say something, before you do something, before anything, you say, is this loving? Is this hitting the button that I'm supposed to hit? Okay, we're going to finish with the Lord's Prayer as we always do after we finish prayer. So let's pray. Shh. Nice. Heavenly Father, thank you again for being here with us.